we are going to lose a massive pot here if he has the nut flush. And if is the really, really important word there. Welcome back to MTT Poker School. My name's Gareth James. Today I've got a really fun hand for you. It is Scoop, the Spring Championship of Online Poker. And this is a hand I played just yesterday, I believe. So we see the hijack open up and we defend Queen Deuce of Clubs. And we flop a flush. Pretty amazing hand. We check and he goes for around 29% pot. At this point, we got to think how, what is the best way to get all of the money in here? But you might be thinking, well, what if he's got the nut flush? Like we're going to lose a massive pot. That's very true. We are going to lose a massive pot here if he has the nut flush. And if is the really, really important word there. So we got to think about all the other hands that we can get value from straight away. We get value from weaker flushes. We can get value from sets, from top pair, from flush draws, and maybe like aces as well. So I think having the deuce of clubs in our hand makes this a really nice check raise because we unblock the kind of hands we want him to call. And we also don't block the hands that are worse than ours, but that are really, really strong as well. So I think if we had a hand like Queen Jack of clubs, Queen 10 of clubs, Queen 9 of clubs, we'd want to do less check raising because we want him to have like Jack X of clubs, 10 X of clubs, 9 X of clubs. So I think this is a pretty good spot. We go for the half pot raise, he calls. The turn is the Jack of hearts and I decide to bet again. Could have some bluffs here. Definitely could use the ace of clubs as a bluff in this spot. He calls again and on the river we decide to go for it all and he calls. And I'll save the result for a moment. Let's just talk through this river decision. So when I was playing this hand, I thought, okay, yeah, we might run into the nut flush, but there are plenty of other hands that we're going to get value from. But is this the best way to play the hand on the river? And I think that's the question you got to ask yourself after the fact. Whether we win or lose this hand doesn't really matter. If we've been coolared, we've been coolared. There's nothing we can do about that. But the key thing is to make sure that we're making the most money with our decisions. So in this spot, what I want to know from Pio is checking a little bit better than jamming here? Do we actually have a small bet as well? Is that something that's used on this river? So yeah, I think it'd be good to investigate, to have a look at Pio to see what's going on. I think that if we check, he's going to jam all of his flushes. Some of them we beat and some of them we lose to. But he also has an opportunity to bluff. Now, if we think that he's not finding enough bluffs, then maybe this line is going to work out better. But yeah, overall, I think we just want to find out whether or not checking or jamming here is the best play. All right then, so here we are in Pio, and let's hover over our hand, Queen Deuce of clubs. And you can see it's a very high frequency raise. Let's have a look at some other Queen X hands. I mentioned Queen Jack and Queen 10. You can see that they just go for a call very frequently. A little bit of raising now with Queen 9 and then some more with Queen 8. And then we see a lot more raising with the weaker Queen X hands. So I think my thinking is correct that we should be going for the raise, having with the deuce of clubs or a low club in our hand so that we get value from the times when he has the Jack X of clubs, 10 X of clubs, 9 X of clubs. And we're not blocking those hands. So we go for the raise and the Jack of hearts on the turn. And you can see our hand actually does do some checking on the turn. I thought it would be a very high frequency or full frequency bet here. But you can see that we actually do some checking 18% of the time and betting big 82% of the time. This is the geometric sizing, so it's pretty close to pot. You can see in the new Pio, I love this feature, that we've got the bet size as well as how much it was into the pot. So 87.4% pot, that would be the geometric sizing. And then on the river, let's hover over our hand again. And you can see, once again, there is some checking, about 18% once again. Jamming is the most common line or action, but there is some blocking going on here as well. So we could look at this hand and say, yeah, I think we played it well. Well done us, give ourselves a pat on the back and move on to the next hand. But there are a few questions that I still have, and I mentioned them earlier on. And that is would checking be better here than jamming? And, we can have a look at EV and you can see that all actions are the same EV. So it probably doesn't matter too much what we choose to do here, but let's just have a look at the versus check node and see what he's supposed to do. So you can see that he's going to jam all of these weaker flushes. Of course, yeah, he's got all these nut flushes as well, but he has the weaker flushes in here that are just going to jam. and we're going to beat. And then let's have a look at some bluffs. So ace jack off, let's change it to strategy. Ace jack off with the jack of clubs. Ace 10 off obviously is a straight, and this is a bet for value, not as a bluff. There's some ace 9 off with a club, ace 8 off with a club as well, and some jack 10 off and a little bit of queen jack off as well. So if we believe that our opponent is going to be playing that aggressively, then we can definitely start to implement some checks on this river. If he's never going to find these bluffs, then I think jamming is still going to be the best line and really force him into a spot to try to call with, obviously a call with his flushes, but I think there are going to be some other hands as well. So let's just have a quick look at this. So when we go for the jam, you can see that king jack is indifferent between calling and folding. Probably, you know, it's going to fold most of the time. We've got some king jack off there with the jack of clubs, which is also, you know, somewhat indifferent, you know, not loving life for sure. We've got top set in there. We've got aces, even with a club that's not loving life. There's set of fours, set of threes as well. So we can definitely be bluffing here. We'll have a look at the bluffs in a minute. But what we're doing here is we're getting called by all of the flushes, and then we're putting him in a really tough spot with his weaker hands. Now you can see that queen jack off and queen jack suited. I mean, that's a flush, that he can't have that. But queen jack off is, in fact, he can't have this hand either because we have the queen of clubs. Okay, so we can move on. So there are other hands in here that we are going to get, you know, that we can get called by. I think a lot of these hands you can see have the queen of clubs in them, and we know, you know, he can't have that because we have the queen of clubs. So yeah, we're really targeting the weaker flushes and some occasional two pair. There's some king 10 off here with the 10 of clubs, which could be a reasonable target. And then you've got queen 10 with the 10 of clubs as well, going for a call. So I don't think we're necessarily targeting just the flushes here. But by checking, we do give him a chance to bluff. But when we jam, we put him into a really tough spot with a lot of medium strength and marginal hands. So what are our bluffs going to look like here? If we just pull up Range Explorer, this is our range on the river. So we've got flushes, sets, second pair, a little bit of third pair, low pair, ace high and nothing. And there's some sets in there as well. I think I maybe mentioned that already. If we click on jam here, we should see a pretty polarized range, right? So we've got flushes, and then we've got second pair, third pair, ace high and nothing. And we can have a look at what that strategy looks like. So all of these hands in the top sort of right corner of the square are going to be flushes. And then you've got the bluffs over here. So you've got ace of clubs here. We've got a little bit of queen 9 with the queen of clubs. You've got queen 10 off with the queen of clubs. Jack 9 off with the jack of clubs. A little bit of 7-6 off as well. So there are some bluffs in here to go along with all of our flushes. So that is going to incentivize him to call with his bluff catchers, right? And I don't think flushes are really bluff catchers. But I mean, I guess if he only ever thinks that we're jamming like, I don't know, queen high flush or the ace high flush, then these are bluff catchers, but they're just still really, really strong hands. But we're really looking at these hands that are indifferent, really trying to put them in the cage, make them potentially make a mistake as well. And I think that players are generally going to make more mistakes when you take this line than if you go for a check, because the mistake that they're going to make is that they're not going to bluff the river enough. Now, that's not great for you when you've got a really strong hand. If you have a medium strength hand or a marginal hand and they don't bluff, well, that's fantastic for you. So, you know, it's kind of like swings and roundabouts. But I don't think that he's going to take a hand like ace jack off with a club and start bluffing with it. I don't think he's going to be bluffing often enough with ace 9 off or ace 8 off with a club, and not with jack 10 off with a club either. So if that's the read, if that's what we believe, then we should 100% be going for the jam in this spot rather than the check call. All right, so before I wrap the video up, let's take a look at the result. Before you see the result, write a comment down below what you think Villain has here, because he does call, so we're going to see what he has. Just write a comment down below. I'm going to just pause for a few moments to allow you to do that, or I guess you could just hit the pause button as well. The big reveal, here we go. He has the nut flush. So we lose a massive, massive pot here. It was the two big stacks at the table going head to head, and it's just a massive cooler. And I think you could look at this and think, oh, but I could have lost less. But I think you're thinking about it in the wrong way. You need to be looking at it like, how can I win the most, not how could I lose the least? And I think that if you start to do that, you're going to see a massive increase in your win rate. Not in individual hands like this when it's a massive cooler, but you know, there are going to be times when he has a jack high flush or a 10 high flush, or we put him in a really tough spot with a set or an overpair with a club, you know, and he just feels like he can't fold it. So definitely really important to review these hands, not get too like upset that we lost a massive hand in scoop and we're just like, oh no, but we could have saved ourselves. No, that's just not the way to think about it. If you lose a massive hand like this and you're not 100% sure on what to do, you should be marking it, you should be reviewing it, send it to friends and get their feedback and learn from it. As we saw in this hand, it was PIO approved for all the reasons that I went through. So really important that we don't just go like, oh, the solver says it was good, so thumbs up for me. I play like the solver. You should always be thinking about why, why is the solver doing what it's doing, and making sure that you're making great decisions at the poker table. So I'm gonna wrap things up there. Hope you've enjoyed it. My name's Gareth James for mttpokerschool.com. See you soon. Bye-bye.